And once again we are back with the new part of this anime, where our protagonist was born as a half-spirit between a hero and the spirit queen, but since the hero was so dashing, Ravel ended up catching the attention of someone rather troubling. And that was his younger brother's wife. Arya had fallen flat for him the moment she laid eyes on him, and as a result she received Goddess Val's judgment at the wedding altar. Because of this, the crown prince took notice and indirectly threatened Ravel to marry his daughter Ellie to one of his sons, so Ravel was completely furious, but Origin noticed that Arya's thorn scar is faint, meaning she still had time to return from the path of sin. But what about Ravel? Prince Ravicel had invited him and Ellie to his castle, and this was something they couldn't avoid. So after explaining everything and making Era understand what she had done wrong, Ravel and Ellie prepared to head out. Ravicel was also preparing for his sons to meet Ellie, obviously hoping to charm her. And on the other side, preparations were being done for their departure, and Origin was keeping an eye from the spirit realm. So Ravel and Ellie arrived at the royal castle and met Prince Ravicel, or rather King Ravicel now. He was radiating that black aura, yet Ellie steeled herself. So to lighten the mood, Ravicel informed them that his sister and father, who caused so much trouble to the Vancraft family, had been sent to a remote location. But still he felt bad for Sobel that his second wife had turned out just like his sister. The rumors were already circulating, but Ravicel instantly took a step back because a child was present. Yet Ellie knew Ravicel brought it up in her presence because she could understand the severity of it. Ellie exceeded his expectations, which is also why he wanted her as his daughter-in-law. Well, anyways, regarding the rumors, the Vancraft family is highly ranked among nobles, and only a noble of higher standing could spread such rumors about them, which means the one to blame must be the queen. And judging by how desperate Ravicel had been to find weakness in the Vancraft family, it was obviously his doing behind the scenes, even using his own wife like this. Ravicel tried to clean his hands, saying that he never said anything about judgment, and from this point on the duo acted dumb to hide the fact that Arya did have a scar, faint but still visible, so they used this chance to leave, saying that royals hate them so much that they spreading rumors about them. So Ravicel apologized for everything, and then he directly asked Ellie to marry his son, but Ellie also rejected him right on his face. Still, he called out his sons to introduce them to her, hoping she might change her mind after meeting them. Gladel and Razel both had the same black aura radiating, and Ellie got terrified. Her scream slipped out and her condition worsened. That black aura started haunting her heavily, and then the three royals also began to see those ghostly shadows and hear their pleas for help. And Ellie saw in her vision that centuries ago the king had asked Origin to do his work, but after she refused, he tortured the spirits and spirit mages to death, which is why the royal family bears this curse. Meaning these ghosts are the souls of the murdered spirits and people. So Ravel quickly took Ellie back home as she had developed a fever because of this, and as for the prince and king, the three of them were badly shaken up. This was the reason the royal family offers prayers to the spirits every year without fail. And Gladel realized that the royal family had forgotten their past crimes, which is why they are still being punished for their ancestors' actions. It was all the doing of the Great Spirit, the curse and everything, though the curse was originally meant for the king who committed the atrocity, but for some reason it continued to pass down through each generation. And after this incident, 3 years passed by and Prince Galadel constantly tried to meet Ellie, but every time Vancraft family denied the request. So just for today, Gramps allowed the two to come in and enjoy refreshments so they could rest. But here they met Raphilia, Sobel's daughter, who had now grown up. She had become boyish and carefree, which is why she always got scolded by Loren for not following the noble etiquette, but Gladiel found this quite amusing. Meanwhile, Ellie was getting dressed up for work, because today she was heading to a mine site with Ravel and Sobel. After all preparations, they bid farewell and left. Ellie's childhood friend Van felt heartbroken, because they used to be so close in the past, but even then Ravel had acted like an overprotective dad, calling it the wrath of Vince since Van is his son. That's why Van grew desperate to learn the polymorph skill to take human form so he could accompany Ellie. Then, the mine the three were visiting was supposed to be a well-producing silver mine. But lately it hadn't produced anything, showing that the mine was exhausted, so they had to close it after inspection, which was exactly what they needed to do today. But Ellie noticed grandmother wasn't there to see them off. And the reason was that both brothers had kept this inspection a secret from her, but Granny was one step ahead of them. She had her loyal watchman among their group, it's Alberto, and so she came fully prepared to join them. This is why both brothers ordered Alberto to keep her busy, It was amusing because it felt like they were carrying extra baggage, but then they arrived at the mine site and met all the workers. Their conditions looked rough. And among all this, Sobel had to break the bad news about the closure, but Isabel brightened the mood with her thoughtful lunch for everyone. Later, Ellie saw the ore that had been mined here. She used her elemental powers to turn it into silver. And when the workers saw that, he was shocked, because to them it was a sign, a relief that the mine was still alive and could continue to operate. Everyone became hopeful that they wouldn't lose their jobs. This created quite a messy situation. Which is why Sobel reminded them of the spirit's curse for mining too much silver. Ellie then saw why they were misunderstanding an illness and vein exhaustion as a curse. Ellie confirmed the symptoms and concluded that the miners had inhaled metal particles and dust through their noses, which caused their lungs to give out. Sadly, there was no full cure in this era. But Ellie couldn't bear to watch these people lose their livelihood, so she decided to create a medicine herself. It was going to be a complicated process, but with Origin's help she might succeed. Everyone agreed to let her do it. But after a few days, things took a bad turn. Because Ellie was so absorbed in her work, she refused to leave her room. Ravel was sweating in worry, but Origin had casted a spell preventing anyone from entering. So Ravel used all his strength to break the barrier and saw Ellie performing her magic. She had miraculously created the medicine, but it had drained her so much that she collapsed. But that's where the video ends for today, so stay tuned to watch the next part on my channel. And for that, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Till then, take care.